What is good, everyone? Let me take you through how I lost 500 in like 5 minutes. Alright, so coming into market open, I was originally bullish. We had inverse the daily fair value gap right here. We had an inverse, so the initial bias was bullish, but what would have been the most ideal thing coming into market open was we've had this high just here, right? The most ideal thing is that would have happened. I would like to see before market open, we don't take out any of these highs. We push down lower, tapping this gap here, then to see longs out of that, right? See some sort of confirmation in there. So that is not what we did. That would have been more ideal, but for what I was looking for, we had all this low resistance liquidity with this gap here. We had taken this high. I was just really waiting to see how we would react off this gap here, waiting for price to tell us what it wanted to do. But I was gonna see if we would react off this gap and see some sort of confirmation out of this. I would want to see us move down lower, then for us to move out of that bullish with the initial bullish bias, like sort of for the overnight session, right? But what we ended up doing, so we just stayed patient. We just waited for price to tell us what it wanted to do. So what did we do? Right, just waiting. So we ended up actually inversing this gap here. So we ended up actually inversing it, telling us that price was bullish, right? So this tells me that we want to see some sort of pullback lower, then to move higher. So this is now a continuation. We had an SMT at this low here, but now this is telling me that price wants to move higher. Not really worried about that. So now I was just waiting to see how we would react off this gap, whether we wanted to hold it, or maybe we do inverse it and then do that initial thing like I was telling you guys. Then for us to move higher. But overall, I was very bullish, like overall, right? So looking here on the 5-minute and 15-minute, on ES was actually looking a lot cleaner. We had this gap here. So this is probably a mistake I made. I don't normally trade ES, but I actually did trade it last night. But so what we end up doing is we end up moving lower, tapping into this gap. So now I wanted to see some sort of clean confirmation out of that, right? Same as this. So I was looking here. I was like, all right, let's see some sort of confirmation out of this, right? So if we were to inverse this, that would tell me that we'd probably want to move lower, take out some sort of more significant liquidity than for us to move higher, right? But if we held this, that was telling me that we wanted to be bullish and move higher. So I was waiting to see how we reacted off this, and then after that, I was waiting for some sort of confirmation out of that, right? So I was just staying patient, following my system, following all my rules, not being greedy, not forcing anything, no FOMO, obviously, right? Ideally, I'd like to wait for a total soup on continuation models. Well, I always wait for total soup on continuation models, just so you don't get your stop loss doesn't get like stop hunted, because of just this is how it works. But we ended up getting that clean total soup. At the same time, this is something where I also made a mistake in, is just seeing how the total soup is just so insignificant. It just shows that, like, I don't know, you can just tell, like, when it's just such a small sweep of liquidity and everything like that, it's a total soup, but it's just not a strong, clean move, right? So now that we had that total soup, I was waiting for the 3-minute or the 5-minute to get inverse above. But this is like the biggest mistakes from last night, is just having strong price action. So price action that's strong, you would like to see like a strong 5-minute here, or like a strong 3-minute. So like not this really tiny insignificant 5-minute gap, like this teensy little gap here. It doesn't really mean anything. Another thing that showed weakness in price action is that while we're waiting to actually inverse these gaps, look how slow price actually went, and how, like, look at the size of these wicks showing all this rejection. That was showing me, like, I wasn't even looking at the 1 minute, but I looked at that. I'm like, oh, it's showing pretty weak rejection, but I was still just like, all right, well, there's still a 5-minute. If we can get above it, that's all good. But for in future, I just being able to identify how it's just such weak price action is just not good. So we ended up staying patient, following my rules, waiting for this 5-minute to get closed above. Right, we ended up getting closed above. I entered longs. Right, what ended up happening is we ended up getting stopped out. But this is the prime example of good and clean, significant price action. So right here, right, this is another thing. So we have this low get taken, right? Now we wait. We ended up inversing this, but the 5-minute, 15-minute was the same gap, so we're holding it. So we're waiting to see if we could see some sort of confirmation. I didn't trade this because I already took in the loss and I wasn't really watching it. I was just journaling, learning from my mistakes, right? But this is literally, when I was journaling, this came in and proved why you wait for a clean confirmation, right? So we go here, right? We have this, see how we've got this clean, strong 3 minute? We don't have a 5 minute, which doesn't really matter. I don't really like trading 5 minute IFVGs, but this 3 minute was clean, right? Clean, strong move, clean sweep. We also put in a turtle soup here with the SMT on NQ, right? What ended up happening is we put that SMT in, we end up getting a clean, strong move out of that, right? So this would be the ideal trade. You enter longs, targeting this high, right? Break even there. It would have been a break even trade, but we ended up actually hitting TP. Had the right bias of the night, as you can see. Price ended up moving higher on the overnight session, so price moved a lot higher. So which we had the bullish bias right, but it was all just come down to my entry point, and that's where I learned from. So just not having a clean, strong entry and this overall strong price action. So you've got choppy price action and strong price action. So yes, this is slightly choppy, but at the same time, it's just not strong price action. As you can see here, we've got a strong IFVG with a strong move out of it. It's just a nice clean move and a nice turtle soup here. So it's just a nice clean sweep, not this little insignificant sweep, right? We end up still holding that gap. That was a great trade, but yeah. I also learned from another guy from TikTok, JC Trades. He talks about not taking 5 minute inverse fair value gaps, and I feel like as though that only works, or like you don't just say, oh, I won't take a 5 minute gap, but it's let me explain with this, right? So saying you've got a 3 minutes are more ideal, right? It's sort of hard to explain, but saying you've got your 3 minute here, right? And there's no 5 minute here. That is a great trade to take when there's no 5 minute. So perfectly example here, right? No 5 minute, 3 minutes there, you take the 3 minute. But this is where you don't really want to be taking the 3 minute, is if, for example, saying we look something a bit more like this. Just try and picture it coming down like that. Sorry. And we've got a big 5 minute up here, right? So you've got a 5 minute, like here, saying you would enter on that 3 minute, like right here, like we did. You enter in that 3 minute, but then on the 5 minute, there's a gap. Well, let's just make this a lot darker and get rid of this. Let's just make that like purple or something. So you got your 5 minute gap in here, alright? So if you were to take that 3 minute, you run the risk of you coming up, holding that, and then getting stopped out, not waiting for actual confirmation. What you can do is, for example, that is the case. Maybe you're 5 minutes up here and there's no 5 minute there, and maybe that lines up with the 15 minute. You enter off this 3 minute down here, right? So let's just go back to the 3 minute. So you enter off this 3 minute here. Just keep in mind, you would probably keep in mind, obviously you have your stop loss protected, but you just want to probably be targeting that 5 minute, or have it at least at break even, or as well as it marrying up with the 15 minute. But you just want to be keeping in mind that that could reject off that. But overall, you just want to be literally just waiting for price to tell you what it wants to do. It all just depends. So you don't just fully write off 5 minutes. You're literally just waiting, and it all just depends on what price is actually telling you. But overall, my takeaway of the night is just waiting for clean, proper, strong confirmation, like not just these insignificant fair value gaps, insignificant sweeps, more like a strong move. But yeah, that's my takeaway from the night, and yeah, just grateful for this loss, because it's just more knowledge that's going into my system, and more knowledge for me becoming a better trader. So thank you. Hope you guys learned something from this, and yeah, have a good one.